Well, Raymond Omollo is the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Interior and National Administration. And today he speaks to us about a wide range of issues that have been going on in the country, especially under his docket, the security situation. We'll speak about police reforms and various other questions which are of concern to you. Thank you very much, PS, for joining us on NTV.
Thank you.
I've stated you are PS, State Department of Interior and National Administration. We have had references being made to you, others saying Principal Secretary, State Department of Interior, and insecurity. You've heard that from lawmakers. And this is definitely a concern to you when you as a person or the office you hold is referred to as a source of insecurity. Perhaps this is where we should start from. You've had the concerns. What is your reaction to it?
Ibrahim, I think maybe the question actually, or the way I would look at it, is that I've now been PS Internal Security and National Administration for 3 years. Is the security situation any better than when I came into office? And the answer is yes. When we came in, there were muggings and all manner of things happening right in the CBD of Nairobi. We had the challenge of banditry in the North Rift. We had the challenge and pressure on terrorism. And to a larger extent or to a greater degree, of course, working with everybody within the security sector under the leadership of His Excellency the President and now my Minister Murkomen, we have stabilized the security situation in the country across board. For politicians, I wouldn't want to go into the back and forth of who is saying what or who is not saying what. But I think we all agree that there is a significant improvement in terms of our security posture as a country. And this is on account of so many things that we have done with the guidance of His Excellency the President. Yeah.
Yes, you have stated the improvement of security. In fact, it has been captured even on official government records that indeed we are at a better place looking at the North Rift. But at the same time, there are realities, security realities, including the emergence of goons, for instance. Right now, the Jikwala Usalama report cited over 130 criminal gangs in Nairobi and across the country. These are live concerns that Kenyans are dealing with. And they would say, this is what the government says, but yet again, this is the reality on the ground. How do you address the constant insecurity? We are seeing crime captured on camera across the country today.
When you talk about what is happening today and every other day, yes, we agree we have improved the security situation in the country. But of course, every other day there is always a concern around security. There's always a challenge around security, and that is why we must progressively work together with everybody within the security sector and also even the public to try and deal with some of these security challenges. Because again, a lot of things keep mutating. Now, take the case in point around goons. The reality is that this is not something that we are dealing with today. This is not something that began yesterday. This is a historic, actually systemic thing that we have had in this country for the longest. And it's good to appreciate that those being accused are generally young people. Now, Kenya is very youthful. Yes, so, and we have a youthful population that people are looking for opportunities. People want to either go back to school, people want jobs. And the bigger conversation that we need to have is how do we address this? And the reality also is that for the first time under President Ruto, there is a very deliberate attempt to try and address the challenge, the youth challenge, in terms of how do we open up opportunities for them. So, and there are several work streams that His Excellency the President is superintending over to open up opportunities for jobs, to open up opportunities for people to get involved in business in terms of enterprise. You talk of the Nyota program. There's the labor mobility program. There's what we are doing in the affordable housing. And beyond that, I think as a society or as a country, there is also the responsibility on all of us, whether we are parents, whether we are leaders. What do we do to meaningfully have these young people engaged? Now, in isolated cases where leaders or politicians may want to take advantage of this to have youth involved in criminal acts, is a question of how do we address it. As a ministry, there is already something that we are doing. If you look at the report from the Jukwaa la Usalama, we were able to bring up that this is our reality. And then there are proposals on what we are doing or what needs to be done. As we speak, there is an exercise going on in Western Kenya, in Trans Nzoia, for example, to just try and identify the few elements that are involved in the criminal act. And this we are spreading across the country so that then we deal with it. And more so now that we are probably facing an electioneering period, we need to be firm, but we need the support of everybody.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. You're citing very progressive measures being taken by government to engage the youth, for instance, affordable housing and the fact that it's offering employment. But there is the meantime. These steps being taken by government may take a while to absorb the youth who are jobless. Looking at what happened in the country, for instance, this week when matatus were on strike, we saw our roads being taken over by goons. You had to pay to pass barricades that have been placed by illegal barricades, I should say, by citizens. Some people had their vehicles banned. These are things happening now. So before we absorb all this, big group of youth, what is being done now? So that, because you'll realize what happens, for instance, when criminals took over the Matatu strike and taking over any other protests, is that they water down the efforts of the legitimate protesters. So what is being done right now?
There are several things that are happening in the immediate term. So when we talk about opportunities in terms of what we are doing in the affordable housing space, the houses are being built now. When you talk about the enterprise or the business support, it's happening now. Now, when you talk about opportunities for education, it's happening now. But of course, you agree with me that it can't take everybody. It will take time for us to get to a point where we've absorbed everybody. And for those not absorbed, it is both our responsibility as a government and the responsibility of the society to see how best to deal with it. In terms of law enforcement, of course, there are arrests that were made, and people need to be taken through due process, through the court process. There will be need for us to continuously have conversations with the young people and tell them that this is not the right way. And even for those who call on strike, they need to also take responsibility in terms of what is the clarity, how is everybody expected to behave. When you say that our matatus are going to be parked, it doesn't help when you say that everybody else who wants to move cannot move, because then that creates the avenue for the criminal elements to kick in. Yeah. So I think there needs to be an appreciation by every player. Mm-hmm. Yes, the responsibility needs to come to all of us.
You've mentioned the arrests that happened on Monday, and it has since morphed into a different thing. And it takes me back to arrests that have been done previously, in previous protests. July 2025, we had another attempt at a protest about 2 weeks ago, a month ago, still on fuel. June 2024 arrests. Would you tell us, are you able to know the process of prosecution? We had so many people arrested June 2024, July 2024, and 2025. Is it something that is within your knowledge right now?
There is basically what I have information to, because when arrests happens, then there are aspects of investigations that You get the results immediately. There are investigations that take a bit of time because of the nature or the web of characters involved. So some will take time, some you will get almost immediately. But also beyond that, the police have the responsibility to arrest, and then the DPP takes over, and then of course the judiciary also have a say. So there are cases you'd arrest, take to court. People are released on a cash bail of 2,000. Of course, it's at the discretion of the courts. Then, of course, there are follow-ups. There are cases where people are detained for longer, and I think each layer of that process, everyone needs to take responsibility for what they do, so that then beyond this being a deterrent, it must also help us deal with the criminals, but also isolate those who probably may have been taken to court wrongly. Yeah, but those who, where there's a serious case, I think it's important that those processes are followed through to their logical end. Yeah, so I think this is something that requires the support and input of everybody. The judiciary, the DPP, the police, the public themselves, so that if you're going out to protest, the Constitution guarantees that it needs to be peaceful, it needs to be unarmed. The moment you do otherwise, then you must have the knowledge that then you are going outside the law. And the same applies even to the law enforcement agencies.
The reason I'm asking about whether you have data on whether we've had any convictions or what came out of the arrests is there have been claims that these are political arrests. You understand what I mean? Shika vijana wawili watatu weka ndani. Then we should see the end result of this arrest through either convictions or acquittals in court. And 2 years down the line, in fact, let me start from 2023, the Sufuria movement protests, then 2024, 2025, we do not seem to have data on protesters or people, even criminals arrested during protests, and the rate of conviction.
You know, conviction is something outside the jurisdiction of the ministry. And I wouldn't want to speak to the merits or demerits of it. At least from where we sit, we follow the law, we do our part, and then we leave it to the next institution to take over.
This law, under your tenure, especially 2025, and its enforcement, was seen to be done in a sort of unfair way, allow me to use that word. 2025, we saw armed Kenyans carrying rungu, walking next to the police, no arrests being made. Yet those who claimed to be protesters have got no evidence that they were or were involved in any criminality or not, were arrested. And I remember videos trending and circulating, people asking, aren't these criminals? Why are Kenyans armed? Because it's a police officer who should be armed. If I'm armed as Ibrahim Karanja, the next course of action is I'll be arrested. Yet they were accompanying police officers. This was under your tenure, sir.
I would love to see who is armed, who is participating in protests, and is not arrested. Yeah.
There were videos, you would remember, even them citing a governor saying, tumelinda jiji 2025, watu wamebeba mipini ya jembe wakati huo, walking alongside the police. And actually, at that particular time, and I know you saw the video because your official accounts were tagged by various people, it was said that the police who were working, yes, independently, but under your direction, were not enforcing the law as should.
You know, you can't say one thing and mean the other. Police cannot be working independently and then at the same time under the direction of PS Omollo. And the chain of command is quite clear. The police are completely independent. Actually, it's happening for the first time under the leadership, under the tenure of President Ruto. It has never happened before. So a number of people fail to comprehend and appreciate that fact. But it is our reality that we are living as a country under the administration of President Ruto. Yeah.
I want us to move away from protests and perhaps get into other substantive issues, but let's speak about goons. A couple of weeks ago, Senator Osotsi was attacked in Kisumu. We've also seen other people being attacked or attempts by goons to disrupt meetings, and political leaders are not shy of mentioning your name right at the center of it. You ask them, what is happening? P.S. Omollo. It may be true, may not be true, but you're here, Kenyans are watching. What is the position? Why your name? Why not any other PS? Why not any CS?
Maybe it would be a good question to ask those mentioning my name, because as far as I'm concerned, first of all, we are a country governed by the rule of law and order, yes. And for example, why would the PS for internal security look for criminals to do my bidding? Completely, it's incomprehensible. But that's away from the fact. There was the unfortunate event of Senator Osotsi. Again, anyone would be asking, so what is the connection between Osotsi and P.S. Omollo? And your guess is as good as mine, completely. But of course, I wouldn't want to be having a back and forth with the politicians. Maybe they have their reasons, and for me, the point is, if there is any criminal action by anyone, the law is very clear. In this particular case, those who are involved have been apprehended. They are being taken through due process.
Have they?
Yes. Yeah.
The last I checked, it was stated that they ran out of the country.
No. Check your facts again. Yes, they recorded statements. Yeah.
Then it would seem politicians really love dropping your name everywhere. I mean, even within, and I know you're not a politician, you really like to focus on your work, but even in the arrangement that we're seeing between UDA and ODM, politicians are still citing your name. They're saying P.S. Omollo is responsible for the infiltration of UDA in Homa Bay. Some even outrightly calling for your ouster from office. You definitely would want to talk about this. Homa Bay is your county. Politicians from there, leaders from there are stating, I mean, every time they ask what problem they have, it's P.S. Omollo. They love dropping your name, don't they?
I don't know if there is any leader who has a problem with me. All I know is that I serve the whole nation, and I do my work supporting His Excellency the President. And I have got a lot of tremendous respect for all the leaders, including the ones from Homa Bay. They have supported me in my work. They continue to do so. And I also support them.
Have you heard of their calls to some of them to have you removed from office?
You know, the issue of being removed from office lies with the appointing authority. I wouldn't want to go into it.
P.S., are you a member of UDA? You have a right to be a member of a political party.
No.
Are you a member of any political party?
No.
Are you responsible for the infiltration of UDA in Homa Bay and the larger Nyanza region?
UDA is the ruling political party. They have their structures, they have their leadership, including in Homa Bay. Yes.
But you're not a member of UDA?
No.
Publicly on record?
On record, I'm not. I don't belong to any political party.
We are heading to an electioneering period, and Kenyans have a concern. In fact, we've covered them, and we speak to most of them, who say, we fear that Kenya is on the precipice, especially in this particular election, that if we are not careful, if we don't handle our politics right, we may go down south. We are seeing politicians, again, taking us back to goons. We are seeing use of tribal incitement across the board. And we were here in 2007 before what happened, unfortunately. As a principal secretary in charge of Interior, do you share in these concerns by Kenyans? And is there anything being done to ensure that we do not get there as a country?
From where I sit, yes, there are concerns. But I would say that it's coming from the minority of us as a country. So I don't think there will be any reason for me to worry or to fear that we would go down the path of situations we have found ourselves in before. What for me would be concerning is that when people fail to do their part, as a PS, am I doing enough? And I think I am. As a media, are you doing enough? I'm not sure you're doing enough. So for me, it's just a question of all of us as a country. Each of us need to play their part. If someone is trying to take us down that path, are we bold enough to call them out? Are we even bold as a media to black them out? Maybe we will get there, but so far I don't see that. For me, those are some of the small bits of concerns that I have. Yeah, and the level of intolerance in certain quarters, for me, also might be something we need to ask ourselves as a country. How do we deal with it so that then we focus on issues? Let's have conversation of what is it that we need as a country. So if there's a challenge around healthcare, if there's a challenge like now the conversation around fuel, are people able to sit and have a conversation? What is your proposal? What is my proposal? As opposed to resorting to our tribal prejudices and goons. And for me, this is one space I would really want to challenge the media to really help us out. Because when you look the other way, the other side, at the end of the day, if in the unfortunate event things go south, none of us is safe.
The reason I'm asking whether you share in these concerns is because there's precedents already being set. This week we saw the unfortunate demise of Wandeto, who was doused in petrol, believed to be out of political reasons. In fact, your minister, your cabinet secretary, Kipchumba Murkomen, has outrightly stated so. She had a tattoo of the president. It is believed by those advancing that is the reason as to why she was doused. We have seen other political engagements turn violent. We've seen when Linda Mwananchi wanted to have a meeting in Kakamega, we saw tear gas there. In Kitengela, we saw tear gas. We saw some attempts to disrupt them in Narok. We saw by-elections in Narok also turn violent. And this is just heading to next year's election. I covered Mbeere North by-election, and we saw some traces of violence and insecurity. And one would think that we would learn from these incidents to ensure that it does not happen again. That's why I'm asking, do you share in these concerns?
I think the whole issue for me is how do we look at, we try and restrict ourselves to what the issues are for those who are involved. So whether there's a by-election or whether there's a political mobilization or engagement. And my view is that everyone in the entire ecosystem needs to play a role, starting with the leaders themselves, those who want to lead or those who are running for seats. Going to us as an administration, as a ministry, what are we doing in terms of making sure that we secure the space for everybody, so that everybody is allowed to be able to propagate these issues. The independent institutions like the National Commission on Integration, are they doing their work? Are we facilitating or allowing them to do their work? The media, are you guys doing a bit? And for me, that is where we really need to confine the conversation. There's a lot of civic education definitely that must happen. IBC, of course, the new team has come in office, and I think so far they've done a good job with the different by-elections that they've held. They've just finished the enhanced voter registration exercise. How do we make sure that everyone who needs to participate in the next electoral cycle is facilitated so that no one feels disenfranchised? We open it up so that everybody know that their voice will actually count. And then, of course, for the criminal elements, for those who want to be violent, we really must find a mechanism to also punish them and take them through due process. Now, We will do our bit as a ministry, the police will do their part, the judiciary must do their part, and so is all of us.
Kenyans will really require a lot of confidence and assurance, especially from you, that the season we are heading to, the season of people randomly deciding tunafunga hii barabara, Wayakiwe will no longer be used, or Southern bypass will not be used. And these are criminals, I must say, because no one has the right to block roads. But it's becoming so rampant towards elections. What assurance are you giving us? I'm asking this even as a Kenyan.
The assurance I can give is that we will do our part, but everybody else must do their part. So if we apprehend people who are blocking the roads, will the courts allow these people to be charged properly without them being, not that there's a problem with someone being given a bail of 500 shillings, but think about it. You've burned someone's property. You are taken to court and you are released after and being asked to pay 500 shillings. What deterrence will we have tomorrow if someone else decides again people are going on strike, for you not to come back and ban it? If the police officer on the road, like yesterday, the regional police commander was assaulted in Kangemi. He has an injury, he had to be taken to hospital. Of course, in the process, there were definitely some arrests that he made or his officers made. They are taken to a police station and people are asked to leave at night. Not to say that there is anything the officer in charge may have done wrong, but you see what I'm talking about. So there is need for us as a country to just be very honest and have this candid conversation, so that you don't come to the police station. When you come to a police station, like it happened this week in Meru, where you burned down the gate, of course, there's a chance that that police station would have been burnt down. Sure. And it is okay. It doesn't prick our conscience as a society. Something is wrong. You burn a police vehicle, you burn a law court like it happened in Kikuyu, and we're just supposed to move on like nothing happened, then there's a problem. We are definitely descending on a very steep path. A policeman is hit by a stone, and it is okay. A policeman is chased down the road, and it is okay. Then I think we must call ourselves into a meeting as Kenyans and ask ourselves, is it really what we want? And it doesn't matter the thinking or the opinion someone might have of the leader, but these are our instruments of democracy. Yeah. So I think at some point, as a country, we just need to sober up and ask, like what happened June 2024? There were grievances, valid. But does the grievance allow you to take the life of the next person? No. Does the grievance allow you to burn the courthouse? No. Does the grievance allow you to burn down parliament? No. It doesn't matter what you think of the MPs. Does the grievance allow you to come to my home and burn my home? No. It doesn't matter what you think about me. So I think as a society, we must call ourselves to a meeting and just see how far do we want to go. Yeah. Otherwise, then we stop calling ourselves a democracy.
The length that we want to go seem to be informed by actions by government. At the risk of sounding insensitive, every now and then, after we see protests and after we see these acts of criminality, because we have to call them for what they are, we see very tough statements coming from you, the Ministry of Interior, be it the CS or the PS, or even from the Inspector General of Police. And these statements will often go with their political leaders actually say it with a lot of certainty. political leaders behind this and we are going for them, we will crack the whip on them. But that's just as far as it goes. To date, no leader has been arrested or brought before the courts for allegations such as having criminals in 2024, criminals in 2025, or even the protests this week. Again, politicians, it was said in the press conference, which you stood next to Waziri, we believe political leaders are behind this, but to date, it has not happened. Don't you think then this encourages it to happen again and again and again? And there is a side effect to it, because now it affects genuine protesters who want to exercise provisions of the Constitution.
I think maybe it takes me back to my previous point that there needs to be that conversation or understanding. What do we do when we have cases? What do we do when we have some of these grievances, and how do we deal with it? And you see, there is only so much you can do as a media house. There is only so much I can do as a PS4. There is only so much I can do as a normal Kenyan. But I think generally, looking across, we have that societal responsibility that we must all ask ourselves, without apportioning blame to one section of the society. What exactly do we want as a democracy? Yeah.
PS, tell Kenyans, who are these politicians you believe are behind criminals in the streets, especially during protests?
I think my point on this is that we have the investigative agencies who are doing their bit. There are those you've mentioned. I think it's better to leave it at that.
The reason I'm asking this is it's said in press conferences that they are politicians, so one would, and it's said with certainty, so one would definitely believe we already have suspects. So are we naming suspects before the investigative bit? Or are we pointing out to, or giving allegations before the investigative bit?
I think the moment you have suspects, you'll definitely point out so that then it becomes part of the investigation. Now, I don't think it will be fair to start dropping names when investigations are going on.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of a unit, either within the police or outside the police, that is doing political bidding for whichever politicians, as has been alleged by opposition leaders, that a specific unit disrupted a meeting in Witima Church in Othaya? This specific unit was in Mwiki to disrupt this other function. Are you aware of such a unit?
No.
So what happened in Othaya? Who were those people who fired at a church event?
I wouldn't want to go to say who was here and who was not there. Of course, whatever happened in Othaya is in public record, yeah? And if there were cases of people who were involved, they have been processed or they're being processed, yes. And like I've said, part of that falls within the jurisdiction of the Inspector General of Police, who has a responsibility to do his part. And I wouldn't want to speak for you.
Let's speak about issues in your office. Insecurity in the north, Operation Maliza Uhalifu, was cited as one of the most successful operations. Never mind, we're now seeing, or we've previously seen, incidents here and there crop up of insecurity in Baringo, West Pokot, and that entire region. But right now, that problem seems to be also taking to a different part of the country. The region between Meru, Isiolo is becoming a headache. We've also seen tension between Kitui and Garissa counties, communities there, and even recently Marsabit and Wajir County. Banditry, cattle rustling, and all this insecurity seem to be moving. Are they all going to be treated under Operation Maliza Uhalifu, or are we having newer plans for these new regions that are cropping up with insecurity incidents?
So take the case of Meru Isiolo, sorry. That's part of the Operation Maliza Uhalifu. So there is not going to be another. And that belt is part of the bigger belt that we've been dealing with in the North Rift since we came into office. And I've mentioned that we have been very successful in that operation, save for the isolated cases like what happened in between Meru and Isiolo recently. And as we speak today, the situation has been managed. Not to say that we will not have similar isolated cases coming up, but the point is that we have built the capacity over time to be able to deal with it using the multi-agency framework, our security officers, the local communities. Maybe looking at Garissa and Kitui, and maybe what is happening recently in Wajir and Marsabit. I think there is the other bigger question around security. There is competition for resources, which are largely climate induced. What are we doing about that in a much more broader case? Because we have also had incidences like in between Migori and Narok, where we have pastoralists, people looking for grazing land, but then also we have cases where there are boundary issues, which we are dealing with from time to time. So I would look at them in a much bigger context of some of the security challenges that we deal with as a ministry and as an administration. So there are those that are resource-induced conflicts. There are those that are around boundary between different communities, the intercommunal challenges. Then, of course, there are the issues where, for example, in banditry or cattle rustling, where there are criminal enterprises that are profiteering from all that trade or whatever is going on. So each of them, we must be able to cut them down into pieces and address them. And we have successfully, to a large extent, dealt with that, and we will continue to deal with it. And this speaks also to what we are doing in terms of the support for within the security sector reforms, the operational capability of the service, use of intelligence, technology, yes, and also just the mutating nature of the different criminal enterprises, including cross-border, the proliferation of small arms, particularly from across the neighboring countries.
And that indeed is a concern. The borders along, especially the north, and that's Marsabit to our neighboring Ethiopia and Somalia, and not just weapons. We have seen human trafficking, cases of human trafficking. We have seen drugs, bang, and all this. And it is a problem that has been there, not just starting with this government, even before. I have been to the field, covered operations by the SOG, but I may want to know how we are completely tightening to make sure Kenyans are safe, because it goes beyond. It also involves aliens coming into the country. Right now, citizens in parts of this country are saying our region has been completely taken over, be it by people from Burundi, Rwanda, Somalia, and they have every reason to believe these are not citizens. And perhaps, in fact, every reason to believe they have not entered the country using the legal way. So how do we respond to this?
There's a regional conversation that must happen, but then even in that context, you have people running from their countries. Do you stop them? Of course, you don't want to stop them.
But
then once they come in, then of course, how do we process them? How do you work around that system to have them registered so that then everyone is accounted for? Now, you will still have cases of, for example, human trafficking, there's the smuggling, there's illicit trade, and all these are the complex security challenges that we deal with on a daily basis. Now, there's a problem in South Sudan, there's a problem in Somalia, there's a problem in Eastern DRC. As a country, what are we doing to support in the different efforts to be able to address those gaps so that not everybody then ends up coming into the country to complicate it. Then, of course, there is the genuine concerns around resources, particularly the host communities. We have some of the biggest refugees camps in the world, in Dadaab, in Kakuma. What do we do to these people who have been in camps, some for as long as 40 years? who also want to just earn a decent living. So all that requires a lot of support from everybody, starting with even the leaders themselves and the community themselves, so that then everybody is able to enjoy what is expected without being hindered. Now, the last point around this is, of course, the fight we are having on terrorism, and there's been a lot of successes. You mentioned about SOG, and they've done a lot of good work working with everybody and the communities, and that is why we continue to put a lot of investment in even in the police modernization program, so that we continue to keep the country safe and secure for everybody. Yes.
This issue of having a professional, objective police service is something that very many Kenyans yearn for. Personally, how I would describe is that we have a double-faced service of the police. And since you are the PS Interior, perhaps you may want to address this. We have sections of the police that is doing a tremendous job. Those at our borders, those dealing with banditry, even the units, the specialized units of dealing with different problems. I have covered them. Kenyans appreciate the kind of work they do. But at the same time, in this same unit, we are seeing those who use excessive force during, say, protests. We are seeing those who are completely refusing to follow the law and are masking themselves even while handling protests here in town. How do we harmonize these two?
Yeah, so part of our security sector reforms addresses the bulk of the issues you are raising. So how do we retrain these officers so that they're better equipped using modern technology, but also even in terms of their situational awareness. So if you are dealing with a protester, what is it that you need to be aware of? What is it that you need to deal with? Now, we will start to reap the dividends of the reforms we are doing in the sector as we progress. And some of them, of course, there are issues around the welfare of the officers, the issues around their promotion, the issues around even the recruitment. How do you recruit officers? In the last recruitment, of course, the bulk were constables, but then we also have special skill sets that have now been brought back into the process of recruitment, so that you're not just having everybody coming in from having done their KCSE. You are having graduates who are coming into the service, so that they infuse the professionalism, but also address the other gaps that we have observed over the years. That part of it is what you're highlighting.
Allow me to cut you short, because that reminds me, when we had an interview in December 2024, we spoke about having cadet officers coming through the cadet process, and it really was a revolutionary idea. How many of the 10,000 who were recruited recently came through that?
It's a small proportion. It's actually less than 10%. Yes.
So they actually are.
Yes,
right.
they're part of the training that is going on.
There came out a concerning report the other day regarding those very recruits. Right now, should I call them trainee officers? What is the professional word for them? They're no longer recruits, are they? There was a concern about some of them being discontinued. Ladies who were pregnant, got pregnant either, I'm not sure whether within the training or before, and this raised a lot of concerns amongst Kenyans. What exactly, just for us to understand, what happened in this case?
I think the whole process of training, they're definitely the standard operating procedures within the training school. I wouldn't want to speak to the details of what it means, but take in any training, yeah? You go to school, there are exams you go through, you pass, you proceed to the next. And I would want to, in this particular case, believe that there's a process, and I know that the service has the competency to be able to tell who goes to what level and who doesn't get to finish. And not everybody who starts a training gets to the finish line. And maybe just to contextualize it, I think it's the first time in a very long time that you have a set of 10,000 officers recruited at the same time. Previously, it will be 2,000, 3,000 in any period. Yeah. Now, when you have 10,000, it's very easy to pick one issue and look at it as a very big thing, not to diminish the fact that any case is too important to drop off. But I think it's important to look at also, to contextualize the whole process. You have 10,000 recruits in one go.
The other concern about the recruits, and I'll give you my own example. At some point, I wanted to be a police officer. I went for recruitment, ran round, was never picked. The stories that came out later was that these positions are not just for anyone. These positions are actually sold. Even these 10,000 that were recruited, we saw claims, such claims come up here and there. Others saying actually politicians, leaders divide these slots amongst themselves. Mheshimiwa anapatiwa 20 hapa, PS goes with 100. I'm not saying you, just examples being given. And you sit at a place where you are in a position to assure Kenyans that these processes are fair. What would you tell them? And when next should we expect a recruitment of the police, especially since we had 10,000 the other day, but also remembering we had several years without recruitment before?
First of all, for the first time when we did the 10,000 recruits, the cases or the issues that you are mentioning that have happened in the past, in this particular instance, did not arise. And it speaks to the efforts we are putting to try and reform the service. And we expect that this is what will be happening going forward. A lot of transparency in terms of who, first of all, just knowing who qualifies, and even the process of recruitment, it's open up. We opened it up, the media, everybody, to see how everybody was being taken into the recruitment exercise. Now, 10,000 is definitely was a big jump, given the gap that was there. The expectation is that we have made a request for an additional 3,000 or 4,000 in the new financial year. The budget process is still going on. We hope that Parliament will give it a favorable position, so that then we can still continue to recruit.
Mm-hmm. My second last question, you've mentioned the budget and your department and in general, the security department is one that enjoys the lion's share, of course, aside from education, the lion's share of our budget. I remember even when you went to defend your budget for supplementary, Parliament, the committee said, almost approved everything that you requested for. How should Kenyans see the heavy investment being put in the sector, the security sector, and be able to pinpoint tangible results that this is what the larger security docket does, or this is what the State Department of Internal Security and National Administration is doing from the budget that is being allocated to them by Parliament?
I think you can look at it in many, many ways. First of all, without security, we probably will not be having this interview. Yeah. So think about it that way, that you can be able to leave your house, go to work, and get back to your house uninterfered with. Now, we might not be able to quantify that, but the moment that aspect of comfort and security disappears, then you start to appreciate that it's actually an important thing. We are talking about development, a lot of investment in infrastructure. It is only possible to do that because there's security. For the first time, we are doing more than 700 kilometers of road to Northeastern. How is it possible? Actually, it's unimaginable. The people from the North can't believe it's happening. And I think so is the case for the rest of the country. But it's possible because we have a secure environment that allows the contractor to be on site. And in the process, we have had isolated cases which we have been able to firmly deal with. Now, that is only possible if there is investment in security. And Kenyans need to appreciate that the investment that they are making in security is not for nothing. There is visible, tangible deliverables, things that people can see. Last week we hosted the French Africa Summit, and many people asking, how did you pull it? More than 30 presidents, heads of state.
That was a tremendous job. That was a good
Yes.
job.
There are people working quietly, who worked quietly to make sure that it happens. And they do that 24/7. So occasionally I feel for some of our security officers because they sacrifice so much to make all of us safe, to keep all of us safe. And they deserve all the support. Part of the budget go into addressing the issues of welfare, the issues around salaries, the issues around promotion, the issues around making sure that they have the mental health, the equipment they need for them to be able to do their work.
In fact, remuneration and welfare of our officers is the other thing that I may give you some few minutes to highlight on, because, like I said, they are doing a tremendous job. But we even had a Kenyan refer to them, nyinyi munakaa kwa mkebe. These are people who are actually providing us with security. Those were police officers being told, munakaa kwa kikombe, mkebe.
Yeah, so these people who are staying in Mkebe are our brothers, they're our sisters, some are our uncles, some are our mothers, yeah? And they deserve the best like the rest of us. Part of the investment we are doing in the security sector includes even housing. So far we have about 5,000 housing units that are as good as done. We have another 23,000 in the pipeline just to help give dignity to these security officers across the country. We have increased their pay, the remuneration, by up to 40%. We've done 2 phases. The first phase was 20% increase. The next phase was 10%. And the last phase is 10% that kicks in July of the new financial year. We have invested a lot of resources even in terms of capacity building, not just for the police officers, but also even for the National Government Administration officers. We had DCCs and ACCs who had stagnated for more than 8 years on account of not having undertaken the necessary training. We came in, the president pushed, we got support from Parliament, and were able to train them and actually have them promoted as part of morale boosting, but also equipping them with the skills. Last December, we graduated close to 8,000 chiefs and assistant chiefs. Again, these are people who are hired, given uniforms, asked to work for more than 5 years, no training, to equip them with the skills to be able to give services to wananchi. And we continue to do this. Now we were in Parliament requesting for some support for the village elders so that they can also have some stipend, because they form an important part of our security architecture in terms of getting to support our security officers across the country. So all this has materialized because of the investment that Kenyans have made over the last 3 years.
How far are we in appreciating Nyumba Kumi and even motivating Ngao, county commissioners, chiefs, DCCs, ACCs, because they play a very critical role. I saw for the first time the president met all of them across the country. I think I've never seen that. But it has to go beyond that in terms of motivation and making sure that they do their work diligently. How far are we with this?
So we have progressed. There is a capacity building, retraining for the senior ones in terms of their management skills, the interactions with people. At the level of the Nyumba Kumi, they are part of the community policing infrastructure, so that then they're able to explain what the government is doing, but at the same time they're able to pick what are the issues that wananchi have that requires the necessary attention. So there's been a lot that we have done, but there's still more that we need to do. Issues around mobility across the country, yeah, whether it's the police officers or your assistant county commissioner or the DCC, we need to facilitate and enable them to move across the regions that they superintend over, so that then wananchi can be able to get the services they deserve.
Again, in relation to the election year, how do we cushion them from being used or playing partisan politics? We've seen previously those in office work with Ngao to advance their agenda, yet many would expect Ngao to be extremely independent at this particular time. It's a threat we are facing as a country, don't you think?
In this election, no Kenyan should worry about this. The president has been very clear. Ngao officers have their role clearly cut away from the politics. The politicians must be allowed to do their politics. Ngao officers have the solemn responsibility to serve Kenyans impartially. Yes.
Last question. Do we have foreign forces in Kenya? To be specific, do we have Jubaland forces in our soil?
We do not have foreign forces. If there are, like it happens everywhere else, there are requisite documentation or agreements that support that. So any foreign force that is in the country is there courtesy of the different diplomatic arrangements.
Leave alone the foreign force in Nanyuki or the ones you're talking about. I'm speaking about specifically Jubaland forces in the north, the county of Mandera, because these, I believe, are not through the requisite process. Or do we have any agreement with the Jubaland forces?
Any force that is foreign, it doesn't matter which part of the country, is only there courtesy of diplomatic arrangements that the law allows us to have.
So if there is evidence of Jubaland forces in any part of the country, then you're putting it to us that there are arrangements to have them there?
If there is, yes.
But they're not? Or are they?
If there is, there are arrangements to have them there.
All right. Thank you very much, PS Raymond Omollo. Asante sana for your time. We've taken a lot of time, but asante for addressing some of the critical issues. We, of course, will never finish on matters security, but that's all the time we had today with the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omollo. My name is Ibrahim Karanja. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.